the Force, Luke.
Sometimes truth isn't good enough.
I feel the need for speed.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna?
Cause it's their time. Their time. Up there. Down here, it's our time. It's our time down here.
And one of these days, we'll get that logo up and running extra pretty, like King Z assures me it's within his skill set toolbox. We'll get there, but we're not going to bust his chops for that. He works hard. The man's keeping the lights on. Let's bring him in. We're going to talk Dune Prophecy episode 2, because I guess it's the thing to talk about, right? Maybe I was a little bit wrong. Maybe there is something to this show. Am I hotter on it this week than last week? Who could say? But we're going to get rolling on that because we actually had a fairly decent response. We were just talking about the folks out tuning in and watching a nice big old chunk. It was, we went almost an hour, I think, or just slightly over an hour on episode 1. And I wasn't expecting that. And I don't think you were planning it. We were talking about trying to keep it short, get in, get out, but there was enough there to kind of chew around without getting all merry-go-round. So, I think I'm over the part where I'm trying to cram 10 pounds of dog poo in the 5-pound bag. Let's talk episode 2, and I'll be a bit more optimistic this week. We'll just say that.
Let's
what's
try
going
that.
on? let's put on the positivity pants and give that a go. I'm not putting on no pants. It's after 9 o'clock. Shorts, dude. Pants are done for the day. They're retired. But we got another hour-long episode. This was episode 2 of 6. I just want to keep reminding folks of that because one of the things King Z and I talk about a lot in these episode reviews, as we're both writers, is pacing. And we talk about economy of words, and we talk about knowing how to move things along, and when you're really up against your time frame and don't have a whole lot of time to screw around, not especially with 6 episodes.
No.
And I think a trap I'm waiting for these guys to fall into is them thinking that because they have that HBO hour-long runtime and not the Disney Plus Marvel Star Wars like fake half-hour runtime, that they think they have room to pad some stats. And I don't think they do based on what I've seen 2 episodes so far. I think they got to keep moving. They're going to play the 2-minute drill. Go.
Yeah, when I was watching this, I'm thinking my last taste at the end of it was, this show isn't going to be for people who are looking for a show. This show is dedicated to the fans. Like, this is to explore the lore and what Brian Herbert brought to the table in Frank's world. His love letter to his dad was continuing the series after his dad passed away. And that's what we're getting to see. Like, we're seeing original characters that's never been seen in books before. Some that have, some that haven't. So we're getting a fun story. This is how you do it when you have such deep lore, when you can go back 10,000 years before the first books and actually tell a unique story that no one's seen before. This is, I believe, how the blueprint for how to do it.
One of the things that I'm struggling with in that regard, I think through 2 episodes so far, is I like my genre in a lot of different flavors depending on the mood I'm in for. Sometimes the high-speed chases and the pew-pews and the lightsaber battles, I'm down for that. Don't get me wrong. And then other times, I want the more Star Trek, original series, early next gen, using our brains to figure things out and not just the pew-pews and the photon torpedoes. So Dune, given when it was written and published and everything, it is closer to OG Trek in a lot of ways. It's supposed to be slower. It's not supposed to have wall to wall, balls out, explosions everywhere kind of thing. So I'm split right down the middle. I'm struggling with that a bit because I've noticed a pattern through 2 episodes here of this show, and I wanted to make this comparison and get your thought on it before we talk specific about the show. I think this show, the joke early on was, this is Game of Thrones in space. That's kind of how this is being billed, not by them, just in nerd circles and people talking.
Yeah, people talking.
Right. So the pattern I've noticed through 2 episodes, I think, is they kind of want it to be that. They want the politicking, they want the houses, they want the subterfuge, but I'm not sure they're up to writing it on the level that early Game of Thrones, especially the first 4 seasons, was written. Because it seems to me that this show has a lot of exposition and downtime for about 45 minutes. And then they really try to crack you with whatever the punch is in those last 2 episodes. In the episode previous, of course, it was the death of Kasha and the Duke's son, just to round things out. Like, here comes the conspiracy boys, boom. And then this episode does kind of the same thing with the last 10, 15 minutes here as well. A couple of big, you know what I mean, shots to send you on your way until next week. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I feel like they're still trying to set you up, but it doesn't punch as hard yet. I'm trying to be optimistic. Like, it's not hitting hard yet. But like, dude, we're a third of the way into this thing, man. Like, when is it going to hit hard? Because so far, nothing has really floored me yet.
Do you remember the first season of Game of Thrones?
Yeah, more or less.
So the first 4 episodes was them traveling back to the Red Keep, and a boy getting pushed out the window. The rest was like they're visiting tombs. People are going to the north. Other than the very opening, which is actually the prologue, is the only time you really have anything until later in there when you Robert Baratheon dies. Okay, so you're getting the same type of burn with this one.
I got you. On the surface, nicely done. It was the burning truth. I get what you're saying, but I'm going to push back just a little bit. I think conceptually that's correct. The difference is while Game of Thrones is doing their stuff, interesting things are happening. It's not necessarily violent things or backstabby Game of Thrones things, but like we're talking about, they find the dire wolves. We learn interesting stuff about why Theon is with the Starks. We learn that the Lannisters are all sociopaths. Like, there's enough interesting stuff, and maybe I'm saying that what they're giving me until the last 15 minutes in Dune, I need them to ratchet that up a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, there's not a whole lot there when Desmond Hart's not around, being whatever weird, creepy character he is for me. Like, so far, the Sisterhood isn't pulling off enough mystical monk Jedi vibe thing that is intriguing enough. Like, they're playing everything they do very on the nose for a secret society, and I think that's the trouble maybe with a show that wants to be focused on a society or a faction that operates in the shadows. It's, you're pulling the curtain back, so it becomes mundane a little, I think.
So they're not really a secret society. You have to think of them as a society of secrets. They're pulling the strings. Right. They pull their own strings. No one else knows what they're doing, but they know that they exist. They know what they do. They're truth tellers. Right. There's stuff like that. They know what they are, but they don't know the behind the scenes plans that they're trying to pull off by manipulating leaders and getting bloodlines in certain places.
That would work if we were in the same POV as the society in Dune, but we're not. Our POV is behind the curtain with them. So I think maybe I made the whole inner workings thing for me. Maybe it's the same reason I wouldn't want the Star Trek, and I know you're not a Trek guy. I've never been a fan of them giving out the Section 31 Star Trek show. Like, I don't want the series about the Federation's Black Ops team. I'm like, no, you can mention them, but once you show me them and they have a uniform and they have their own ships, I'm like, well, the menace is gone now. You know what I mean? Like, they're no longer the big looming shadow enemy. They're no longer pulling strings from beyond, because I'm watching them, you know what I mean, dance the puppets. But that was just a little opening salvo. I just wanted to pick your brain on that, the opening 2 episodes and the pace, because I know you're a little bit more, we've said this before, you're a little bit more gracious, especially with opening pilots. You're a big fan of the rule of 3. You know what I mean? You give any show 3 episodes, depending on its runtime, aggregated. You know what I mean? So if this show's it only has 6 episodes, and I'm guessing you enjoyed episode 2 because you haven't just done your Ahsoka thing where you're like, that's it, I'm out, I'm done, broke my soul, can't do it anymore, Wolf, I'm out, find somebody else, call the armorist, bring somebody else in. So I'm guessing you enjoyed 2 on the same level as part 1.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of things that drew me into Andor, and it's also, I believe it's trying to be the two episode type build for it. So it's going to be that slow. We're watching the CIA work and how it's taking over different countries by putting the leaders in place that they want. That's how I'm seeing this show.
Shadow government.
Set up in the myth and lore of Dune.
And we're seeing, and it's, they're not doing anything you're not saying they're doing. And to be fair, it's like they're on target for, I think, the story that they're trying to tell. I mean, quantitatively, they're moving right along. You know, we're getting scenes where they're investigating the murders, but they resolve that real quick in this episode. Like that whole thing, like that. I think you're right. The 2, and 2, like that. This cluster is done.
Yes,
you know what I mean. Like the statements were made. That arc was resolved. The Emperor sent the Duke packing because he basically freed Hart and was like, "All right, fucking burn this guy. Show him he's threatening to take the ships and take the spice operation. We're gonna BTFO him right now." Yeah, and that was one of the punches at the end of the episode, which was good. I thought that was pretty slapping. You know, I was like, "Oh, the Emperor's not gonna kill this dude, is he? Is he gonna let him die?" I'm like, "No, that wouldn't make sense to kill him. It makes sense to send the message." Yeah, you know what I mean. So when he pimp walks hard out there, I'm like, "Oh, okay, here we go, roast him,
make him bend the knee."
Right, and then of course the other and we got 2 of those because the other punchy scene near the end there was him facing off with Mother Valia, and her trying the voice and it not working out the way she thought that. I thought that was cool too, like because I thought he was gonna do it, but then I'm like, nah, he's gonna be like,
which. Someone being able to resist
dope.
the voice does have precedence in the world too. And the one thing is, and I think they're doing real well. The show is building the mystery of who is Desmond Hart.
Yeah.
How did he get these abilities? There's a lot of theories running around out there of like who he is, how he got the powers. Like he said, he was granted it by where I have my notes here, Shah Halud. Which is
the great worm.
The great worm. The
giant worm.
Because it spared him when he got swallowed,
right.
Which is pretty much...
Lone survivor.
Yeah. And like, he was like being swallowed by a sandworm. There's usually no coming back from that. That's not, sitting in someone's belly and being digested for 1,000 years. This is... like you're destroyed with all the teeth. And one of the things they do not capture in the movies, any movie, or in this adaptation is that there's actually like a burning fire inside of the worms. And you don't see that, which you don't see them portray at all. You just see empty void of what's inside the big sandworms. And there's actually like a big fire that's burning them. That's why their skin flakes off, and which creates the spice.
Dope. I like that. You know what? Then that ties nicely into the whole, where they kind of victimize that young girl. And one of my complaints in this episode, I'll just get to this out there real quick. This episode's falling prey to the modern problem of not using your characters' names enough. So I have no idea who we're talking about for most of the show until they then retroactively use somebody's name like later after they've already had like 4 or 5 scenes. Like I had no idea. That girl's name was Lila. Like I did not remember that from episode 1
Sister
until
Lila.
Like later on, Sister Lila. I know the big wigs. I know all their names, but most of the girls at the academy there, I'm like, I wouldn't have known that girl's name was Theodosia until it was said like 3 scenes into her being there in the episode, because I don't recall that at all. From like, I'm sure they had it somewhere in episode 1. But yeah, I find modern shows do this a lot. But anyway, they basically they hijack her, to make a couple of decisions that could get her killed, to get more info on the prophecy and what's going on. And what she lets out is like a little 2-liner about, who's committing the murders. And he's like, one who was born from blood and born from spice. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of nutty, because it kind of is. It's
born
true.
Twice. It was
born twice. One of blood, one of spice. Like, it's Desmond Hart, of course, because he was born. He's a human being born from blood, and then again thrown up back by the worm allegedly, or she's confirming it. So he was born out of spice, and that makes sense if you're talking about the worms. They actually give the spice off, and he was born from the desert. We saw him on the surveillance camera actually rising from the sands. He was literally born from spice, right? Isn't that him?
Yeah,
on the Emperor surveillance camera, right? So he's the prophecy guy, which is cool.
Yeah, works. And if you actually looked at that hologram, it looks more like he falls on top of him than inside the mouth. The way the
which should still kill him, though. I mean, listen, if we're gonna bust Charlize Theron's balls for dying in Prometheus, for not running left 3 degrees when the ship was gonna donut roll her down, worm should kill you too, pal. But this show has magic, so I'm gonna go with it.
Well, technically, it's there is no magic in the world of Dune, so that's what's throwing off a lot of people's belief in Desmond. So that's why a lot of people believe that he's a what do they call it? It's a Gola. Gola. They believe he's actually a Gola, which is a clone with the physical memories of the person that he's been cloned, and he has some type of tech in him that's causing him to do that. That's why he believes he survived the worm attack, and because he has the memories of Desmond, but now he's there with like the powers and everything like that. And that's why his loyalty could be only to the Imperium, because he has no, like, he has all the memories, but he might not have the same motivations and everything before.
Right. I forgot everything about the Bene Gesserit is just, next stage of human evolution and not the Force.
Yep.
I forgot about
like
that.
the
That's a good
voice
point.
is just a way of
Right.
using your voice to hit a pitch that resonates to make people want to do something. Think of like hypnotism.
Right. And they're not over there like, like dodging bullets like the Matrix or like bending reality around, anything like that. They're not casting Dresden Files spells. Yeah, I said that a little too quickly. So yeah. So this episode is more about investigating what happened. They solve that. I think they're trying to do more of the character and the wider story development, because we see, of course, that great grandpappy Atreides is part of the rebellion. Like they kind of drop that on you a little bit. We see he was in on the heist.
Yeah.
That obviously has the connection to Princess Inez, whatever her name is. So we get some of that. We get that there are other people that may not be hip on that relationship, i.e. the blue-eyed chick from the bar, also part of the rebellion. So we know there's a larger thing that they're going to dedicate time to, I think, next week, which is interesting because I think it's slowly peeling layers like you're always talking about, expanding outward.
Yeah. One of the things I want to stay on is the about who killed the kid. That was one of the things that they had to wrap up in this episode. And I loved how they had Desmond do it. Like they had him in prison. The Emperor knew he did it. The Empress knew he did it. But and then if it wasn't for his stupid half son, no one ever known that he would have been in prison for it.
Yeah.
But he got snuck out during the scene. But the thing is that he didn't deny it. Like they didn't build a mystery and just like pushing it down there, like pushing the ball 5 yards, pushing it. We'll eventually tell everyone that he did it. No, he straight up like, yeah, I did it because I'm loyal to the the Imperium. And it was like, I wasn't directed to do it, but it was implied.
Right. And he didn't have to say that so much too. He just had to say what he said. Because, Mother Superior over there shows up and does the truth detection spell thing. I keep saying spell, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She does the truth thing. And then she basically, even though she's antagonistic to his goals, she tells the Emperor and the Empress, no, he's telling the truth. He's telling what he thinks is the truth, even though what he's saying is probably false. So he did the Costanza thing, it's not a lie if you believe it. You know what I mean? Like to quote the infamous George Costanza. But I did like that scene. I think one of the things I thought was kind of silly though, but I get it. It's Dune. The suspension cells. I'm like, okay, wouldn't it just be easy to put this dude in a room and chain him to the floor? We could have anti-grav tech in here. We could just put him up a few stories.
You can't run if you're being suspended.
Can't run if you're on a chain. You know what I mean?
You do.
I guess you can fiddle with the chain.
Yeah, chain can break. If you're stuck in the air, you can't go nowhere.
And there was no technology that he could fiddle with on his wrists or anything. Yeah, I guess so. Like, and if he did, he's just falling 40 feet anyway and gonna die. And I guess that works. I guess it just works. Really, but it's on brand for Dune though, and it looks like Dune. And I heard somebody say this in a video elsewhere earlier in the week, critical of the show. But it doesn't look like Dune. It doesn't sound like Dune. I'm like, are we watching two different shows versus the last two movies? Because it sounds like Dune, although the heavy notes, like all those sounds. That's what I just saw in the movies. And all the establishing shots are always sleek looking shuttlecrafts landing on, various pads outside of giant Gothic structures. I'm like, I don't get the complaint there. Maybe this person was just talking out their ass. I don't know, but I'm not definitely complaining about the look of the show at all.
Oh no, the look is straight on. And the reason why it probably doesn't look like Dune is because it's 10,000 years before the events of Dune.
Dude, fantastic point. Like your haircut, the same haircut you had like 10 years ago. You know what I mean? Well, I mean, yours might be. I mean, military issue aside, but I mean, the rest of ours certainly are not. But that comes up with like Trek and Star Wars all the time too. Like especially in Star Wars, where they're like, "Wait, how come the Naboo starfighter from Episode 1 looks better than an X-wing?" And I'm like, dude, I mean, our technology changed in the time between the movie was made. You can't be pissy with them. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, what did human technology look like 100 years ago? Did we have F-35s 100 years ago? No. Then shut your trap.
was it 1920s? I think automobiles were just becoming like a
Insane.
household thing.
Like, did they still have the cranks on the front? Like, do they still have that? Like, exactly. Like tech evolves.
Yeah,
Like it evolves almost annually in a lot of ways. You know, you hold up your or you get your cell phone in front of you, hold that up for the people watching. You know, your great granddaddy's cell phone was the size of a cinder block, you know, and that was only 20 years, maybe 30 years ago now. So them late 80s, early 90s bag
40s,
phones and shit.
The 80s were 40 years ago.
Yeah, but had cell phones had bag phones, had the cellular phone really? Yeah, I guess they did, because I'm thinking of Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they had the giant walkie-talkie phones. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
The Zach Morris phone.
Like, no, dude, you know what I mean? Like, come on, the technology changes, man. So of course it doesn't look the same, but it looks stylistically, aesthetically, the color grading and the sounding, the sound design is super on point.
So the first computer that was installed at NASA had 1 megabyte of storage. 1 megabyte, and it was considered huge.
And they put a dude on the moon.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. I don't know. I've seen that movie. I've seen special effects in movies in 1963 or whenever. They put them there. They put them there. But anywho, the episode, I'm trying to think of like this, just to circle it back to like how we started our chat. My problem is I'm ready to discuss those last 2 scenes, because I was like invested in watching those personalities square off, especially the very end where Desmond basically shows Valia, the situation, as you know, it has changed. Your services are no longer needed in the palace. And she's like, you think you can, you know, get rid of me? And he's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I can. And then she tries to voice stab him through the throat with his own blade. And it looks like he's going to do it. And he probably almost does it, but then wills it, you know, not to happen. I don't think he was gaming her, like she had no effect. But that was interesting, because you can see when she breaks and she's like, oh shit. Like, uh-oh. Because she about faces and pieces right the fuck out.
And that's where our tagline for this show came from. Is like, now I see your. He's like, I wondered what your fear was.
That was good.
And it's not.
And it was 2-part.
Being heard. It's like you're not being heard. Now I see
you're not being heard, and nobody cares. That was the second line. That was the dagger. That was the actual dagger there. Meanwhile, I'm over here like, does anybody have a good chili recipe? Because I'm just bored with the same old shit. But anyways, King Z put some thought into the thumbnail and the taglines this week. I'm like, yeah, I'll hit him up for something. But so yeah, but I mean, like I can talk for an hour and a half on those 2 scenes, but like the rest of the episode, like I'm like, okay, so there was the unnecessary scene between the prince and the Duke's daughter, super hot, but I mean, I really didn't need that.
But that actually led to information getting out about Desmond to her daddy.
True. So I mean, I guess there was a purpose there.
There was not a lot of wasted time. I think the only scene that could have been cut a little bit shorter was the interaction between the princess and the sword master. I think that scene
when they were dueling.
Yeah, when they were dueling. I think that scene could have been shut. That could have been cut a little bit shorter.
Yeah. I think all that did, I think that was only there to show you that she's now focused on her upcoming revenge plot, and because she's staying where she thinks she might be staying where she is and not going to the to Wallach 9, where the training school is, and they're all like, you're still gonna go. Like literally everybody told her she's still gonna go, but she's acting like she's not. Like she's gonna stay here to investigate the murder and not go, even though she said she wants to go. Like, make up your mind. Mm-hmm. But, you know, obviously she'll work with Theodosia to investigate Kasha's death. That's obviously an arc that's coming up her. But the larger point to what you're saying about that scene was you can see that that Atreides is still very much interested in her. But he's like, oh, yeah, you're right. We had our fun and we're going to just go our separate ways. It's going to have obviously implications with the rebellion in the next 2 episodes, where she'll probably find out he's part of that and then be torn between telling her dad or not. I don't know. But I mean, I guess go ahead.
Well, I mean, one of the things that scene, the only thing I saw that scene accomplishes, one is putting a wrench in their relationship, knowing that it was only a night of fun, and 2, it placed him back in the palace when you think that the Bene Gesserit's going to come there and rat him out. Because we'll take you back a little bit. He goes, you see a scene where he's like doing something in one of the vents.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he leaves, and then the next scene you see him going into the bar that we saw them at in episode 1 when they went, and he met up with the bartender, and there was another guy there. I forgot his name.
Horace, I believe. It's the only new name I remembered. I expect you to be impressed that I remembered that.
Yeah.
It was said once, and he's a throwaway character.
And then, and then they talked about like the rebellion. So you're like, oh, so the bartender, the Fremen bartender, has a bit bigger role in this. Yep. And he's like, he mapped the whole palace and no one paid attention due to the investigation of the murder. And you find out that he's part of the rebellion, and that they were part of the attack on the Harvester on Arrakis that caused Desmond Hart to become who he is now. And then you had the whole thing with her challenging his authority, like his, how do you say that, motivation. Yeah. Because she saw him, with the princess the night before.
She says it. She says it flat out. Yeah. That was good. And that character we know has a bigger role because she's Bene Gesserit herself.
Yeah.
Because we get that reveal at the very end of the episode after Desmond and Valia have their showdown.
No, that's before. Because that's what she was coming to tell. She met with her before the showdown because they met, and then you see that the big reveal is that the bartender's actually Bene Gesserit, and they're controlling the rebellion. They control.
That's what I was going to say.
And they control.
I got it out of order. Okay, I got it out of order, but I wanted to point that part out. It's interesting to see in one breath in one scene. We realize that the Bene Gesserit had a hand in sparking the rebellion, in orchestrating the heist, in crippling the Emperor. But then in her own words, it's like, now we have to bolster him against predators. And then the bartender, I think they used her name. I don't remember her name, but it's the Fremen bartender with the blue eyes.
It's, I got it right here. Malika, Mikaela.
Okay. Oh, no, Michaela. He did. He said Michaela. You're right.
That's it. Michaela. Okay.
She's like, in the same breath, she's like, all right, so you want us to burn this entire cell. And then Mother Superior there, whatever she says about, something about sacrifices or whatever she says. And I'm like, they're playing pretty loose with their resources and their motivations and their what they're like. They're doing their manipulations. They're doing their subterfuge. I mean, that part I like because we see Mother Valia changing on a dime. She course corrects. I mean, it's not like Walmart getting rid of like all their DEI stuff over the week here. It's like no. She's like, we're doing this now. Like we now have to do this. If you have to sacrifice all 40 people in the cell, fuck them. They're like that. They're just gone. Like we have to keep moving. And I thought that was interesting. I'm with that.
Yeah, and her whole counter was that she's trying to give up Atreides because of their interaction in the bar. I think that's the whole reason why she was trying to give him up is because, and then Valia loved it because it's the name of Atreides, and she's a Harkonnen, and the whole betrayal of the Atreides on the Harkonnens.
Yeah, which came up a little. That aspect in particular didn't come up, but when they were doing the bit with the agony with Lila, when they meet up with the original Reverend Mother they were trying to talk to get information, but then that ghost gets forced out, and we see that the original sister that Valia had killed kind of took over in the psychic landscape of things. Like in the real world, when she comes out, she kind of like lurches forward, looks at her, goes Harkonnen. I was like, okay, that's pretty. There was some horror imagery there. Let's talk about that scene a little bit. I thought they did a little Sam Raimi kind of horror thing, some jump scares, some creepy images crawling on the wall on the background. I'm like, okay, I could dig this. I could spend some time in this part of the episode. Yeah. Like that was suitably kind of tense.
Yeah, you got to set it up too. So what she's going through is called the agony. It's where they become a full Bene Gesserit. They get connected, and what they do is they ingest the poison. And here they use a different poison, which was actually referred to in Dune as more of a poison for assassins.
Yeah,
because they use the bile of a dead baby sandworm to make their stuff in the future. So here they're using this poison, mixing it with a type of moss to go through the same type of ritual, and then they use their body chemistry to fight the poison effect in their body.
They said that in the episode. You're right.
Yeah, because they said that there is also no antidote for this poison that I'm about to give you, which refers back to the poison. It was actually on the hunter that was supposed to kill Paul Atreides.
Oh, the flying thing in the movie. Yeah.
The hunter, which you also know that wasn't AI either. It was controlled by a person because, once again, we're in a world where there is no AI. There are no thinking machines.
No thinking machines. Mm-hmm.
So what they do
is a ritual. Yep.
So they had this new poison. So they put this poison in you, and you got to fight it off with just using pretty much your mental strength and using what your body creates to fight off the poison. Which I think the visual of that, where you have the red blood versus the blue liquid fighting each other, very good. It was
very
visual.
Blade. I liked it. It was very Blade, like human cells getting taken over by vampire cell kind of thing. I did get a kick out of that. That I thought looked pretty slick.
And then what they're trying to do is when you fulfill the ritual, you have connection to your genealogical memory, which you would know from Paul Atreides and his mother Jessica. Both got that knowledge as well after they went through the same ritual. So you get to see this in a more prehistoric, I would just say, here in this
prototypical
version of it. And what you saw was what she became, they refer to as an abomination. Because when she was going through it, she was seeing the ghost and not the memories.
We've been raided. Thank you for your spirits.
And the oracle has been seen.
Welcome to the show. I thought she was going to comment on that scene. I was like, oh, this is going to be inspiring and well thought out, lucid, articulate. And then there was, no, cover, go. That's all right. But, dude, let me ask you this about that scene. And then we get to the resolution there. And this was the part of my requisite I had to rewind it because I took a little snooze. They were concerned about Lila doing this, and I didn't catch why. Was she too young?
Too young. She's too young and not trained enough in her ways, even though she is the strongest actor like they do have at the time.
Okay. And that's I think what confused me. And even if I hadn't taken the snooze, I would have had to run it back because I was thinking I didn't go back and check episode 1, but when they were kind of going over the candidates for the different things coming up in the episodes, like Mother Valia was with Tula, and they're like, what about this one? And what about this one? And literally it's the 4 chicks that are each doing something in this episode. Theodosia, Lila, the crazy one that had the weird violent backstory, who's kind of like the rebel, and whoever the 4th one was. I think that was the girl she was holding her hand with in the balcony at the end when they were watching Lila do it. I thought that was that they said Lila's the strongest, or she's got a unique background or lineage or something. And I figured that's why they picked her this week to do whatever.
And it's
but she seemed really concerned going. That's what I thought.
Because her great grandmother was the first.
Oh, was the original, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And it was her.
That's right. I remember.
And then her grandmother was the one Valia voiced.
Got to shank. Okay.
And then her mother died in they said died in childbirth.
Allegedly.
Yep.
Allegedly.
And
that had implications also.
Yeah, and they said that, which I saw one video I watched, they got it wrong. They didn't listen to the actual dialogue that they said, because she said granddaughter. When you find out that it's actually the girl who stabbed herself in the neck, and then said Harkonnen, and then caused not Valia, but Lilia. Tula. No.
Tula's Valia's sister. Lila's the young girl. Where
she made Lila become a abomination, where she's locked in the mind of the ghost, which you have seen in other books where they actually possess them and then use their bodies. That's why they're called abominations. One of the book series I listened. No, it was Dragon Age, the game, where you actually get your magical powers. You have to go into the Fey realm and you have to like complete tasks. And if you get taken over by a Fey, you come back as an abomination. That's why the knights are standing over you as swords to kill you if you come back as an abomination.
Right.
And that's
a throwback, dude. That's like 4 Dragon Ages ago. That might even be.
That was the original. That was the original.
That's the OG. That's not this Veilguard crap. No. That's he's throwing it back. Much better game, by the way.
Oh yeah, I love the original one.
I even like Origins compared to the new Veilguard, but I don't want to get sidetracked on Veilguard because it's terrible. We can talk about that later.
Yeah, that's a different story for a different day.
Yep, different. We should do more gaming stuff. We should.
So
time to play if we can talk about them.
So that's where she is at this point, is that she is now an abomination. And yeah, the reason why she was chosen, like you have to do it with her now, is because she wanted to find out more about the burning truth and the apocalypse that is set to become.
And of course, it was her grandmother that had initially given Valia the whole, you're going to receive a vision of the reckoning. It's the burning truth. So okay, so that's specifically, that was the clock. That was the ticking clock on the situation. Okay. Thank you again. That this is my weekly gratitude for you filling in a couple of small pieces that I just missed or didn't think of. And I'm like, okay, all right. I mean, but they can do it. All right, chick's in danger. Everybody obviously cares. Tula cares. You know, she's crying as this doesn't come out of the poison-induced coma. So I mean, all the performances are legit. Like they all work. Like I felt bad for the girl on the table and she's wrenching and contorting all exorcism style. Like it was all right. You know, like I said, inside the I'm just going to call it the upside down, sue me. Inside the upside down, like I said, it's very creepy. It's different than what we've seen in the rest of the set design, which I appreciate. It was cavernous, lots of shadow, but light in different places and interesting camera shots too. Like when you get that shot near the end where it looks like she's falling back into the crowd, even though they're all standing, like she's crowd surfing, but then you realize they're basically just folding in on top of her. And that was Tula's warning is, you know, don't let them, they're going to wake up hungry. Don't let them sway you. Follow my voice back to the light. You know what I mean? But there was some nice touches in there, I thought.
The shot where she's it's spinning around, where she that shot where the camera's like right here and she's spinning around. There's all the people behind her. That was a great shot. And then the lightning effect that's in there, trying to put it in a different realm to just it moves you into a different state of mind. Like you said, when they changed the lighting and stuff, they didn't want you to think that she was still in this world. She's actually in her own head, and what you're seeing with the lightning is her synapses firing.
Oh, and I think I think you said they went the extra mile with that, especially with those little touches like the lightning strikes, the lightning in a cave, guys. Because when they're doing the procedure, they're in a Bene Gesserit like lab within the compound. Like they're in a almost, it's probably a sterile environment. The girl's on a table. There's no candles. There's no Gothic choir. Heck, the other initiates are like on an observation deck, just like a real like teaching college at a medical school, like looking down on the procedure. So it's like it's all very much like we know we're following her in her head somewhere else, but they laid it on real thick when we got there. And there was that first shot where she wakes up in there and she's distant and she's walking away from the camera and some weirdly jointed thing just like skitters on the wall. It was on the right-hand side of the frame, our right. I was like, oh, dude, whoa, what is going on here? Like, wait a second. I thought she was just going to walk through a graveyard and see grandma. Oh, no. And you might have seen it coming since you've read some of this stuff and you knew about the abominations. I did not. But I wasn't expecting like even a horror light vibe. So I was thankful. Like that was good. I enjoyed that. I really did. As a non-punchy part of the show, like those other two scenes we talked about at the end.
Which has a few different implications going forward. One, she didn't actually talk to the first Reverend Mother. She talked to technically the second one. Good. Yeah. And she got her revenge for being killed. Yeah. Two, the interaction between Tula and Lila beforehand, where Tula's like, she's like, I always thought you liked a mother, and she's like, I always thought me as your mother as well. That's why I gave you my favorite keepsake. Like there's that bond there, and she didn't want to do this, but she did it for the sisterhood, and like the troublemaker acolyte who was like, it's all about the sisterhood. It's never about the sisters.
Yep. And again, so I mean, I know I kind of dumped on them early when we were talking about, I don't know if the writers can pull off that Game of Thrones complexity, like when Game of Thrones was good, but it definitely has its bright parts. And that was one of the better lines that kind of reflected that, where they're talking about, oh, you can have a cause, and they'll always talk about the cause. It's always about the cause, but they're never going to talk about you, and I'm like, oh yeah, that resonates. Like I'll remember that line for a little while. Like that was pretty solid, And it's in line with the woman that said it too, because she is the rebel. Like she said it. I believe in the sisterhood. Like I'm here. Like I don't question her resolve. Like if one of them told her to shank 3 Harkonnens somewhere else, she'd probably do it. So I don't doubt any of their resolve or their commitment. Definitely don't.
I think we're going to see a lot more of Tula and like where she's coming from, because she's heard in this too, because she knew that it wasn't the right time. So this is going to drive that wedge between the sisters of Valia and Tula as well, which I do believe episode 3 will be more of a flashback episode.
Oh, flashback prediction, huh? I didn't think this show was going to go with any of that. Like on that kind of, you're talking like a dedicated level, like how like when the Acolyte did literally 2 of them, like the whole episode except for the setup is.
No, I think it's going to flow with the story that's going on, but there's going to be a lot of flashbacks in
Oh,
it.
it's gonna be flashback heavy. Okay,
Yeah,
I got you.
flashback heavy.
I thought you were talking about. I thought you were talking about bookends. Like we're gonna start in the present, flashback for 40 minutes, and then we're out. Regular time at the end for the last 5 minutes. Okay, cool. All right, I could see that too. And you know what? I think I want to see that story because I think they've already done what they can do with the day-to-day mundane manipulations of the Imperium. Like I've seen enough of that. I know they're probably, if the show's worth its salt, they'll have one more big card they can play that like Mother Valia will have to make it be like, oh no, I'm still the boss in this bitch. It's nobody else. It's me. They'll have one more of those. But what I would like to see would be the infighting. That's the Game of Thrones I want to see, is the infighting within the faction, not the faction on faction. Because a lot of times that's a bit gratuitous and it's just easy to do.
Which that leads to my second prediction going forward is I don't believe that I lost my train of thought there. I don't believe that Desmond killed the Bene Gesserit all the way across the
Emperor
universe.
hints at that.
I do believe that the troublemaker one is actually a rebel with Desmond, and she's the one who actually killed the Bene Gesserit back on was it Wayland 2 or something like that?
Wallach 9 is the Bene Gesserit planet. Oh, hello. Yes, sir. Oh, sorry. I thought I was reading that out loud in my head. Victor, thank you. ASMR stands for Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response, and the doctor said the meridian area was caused death. Yes, he did. Desmond's power may be something more sensory. Dude, great call, dude. Great call. I love when they tie stuff into stuff that actually biologically exists. That does work for me. King CD, I just want, before I got distracted by me not reading things the right way like a professional YouTuber, I boomered that comment and I apologize. You were talking about, and now I lost my train of thought because it's late and I don't remember what I was going to say because I had to respond. Oh, well, I'll let that slide. Oh, it was the timing that the rebel may be in it with Desmond. I don't know if, does her age hold up to that timeline? Like if I'm assuming they're all teenagers for some reason, like between 13 and 20 or whatever. Can she be part of Desmond's unit if he's been stationed and he's been part of the Imperium's army doing things for however long? Like, does that line somewhere? I mean, I guess it could. We don't know that she's 20.
Yeah.
That's me making a supposition.
I think it's more of that they were planted together. Like he came straight from Arrakis there, but I think they might have met up or they knew each other. Like this was a setup from the beginning.
It makes more sense because the Emperor basically put Mother Valia on the spot with that, where he's like, yeah, he killed them both at the same time from half the galaxy away. Okay, like he wasn't having that, and dude, you had to have been thinking that too a little bit, right? Like, is this dude all powerful? Did he really just nuke two people? Like 50 trillion light years apart? Like, probably not.
And there's nothing that states that it's at the same time, other than that it went from one scene to another and the same
that's
thing
true.
happened.
That's our perception of it as the viewer, right? That could have been hours or half a day apart. We know what happened within the day, just because they were already like dealing with the fallout of it. But
well, one more thing I want to point out is that he brought up the doctor. Did you notice the triangle on her head, like the doctor that was in Dune, the one who betrayed the Atreides?
I forgot. I wouldn't have.
He had one of those triangles too, which are supposed to be the ultimate doctors in the universe, and one of them just happens to be a Bene Gesserit, which you can see that they're implanted throughout the whole universes.
Dude, the only thing I noticed about that, honestly, in this episode was it wasn't centered properly between her eyes, and I was like, is that on purpose? Is it supposed to be off a little bit, or did they just rush? Like, oh shit, we forgot the sticker, quick. They just kind of like threw it on there. That's kind of what I was thinking. I'm like, my OCD was screaming through the screen at that. And I was like, oh, I just want to can't do it. Dude, you can't control everything. You just can't. It's too bad.
I think that wraps up all the major plot lines and characters from this episode.
Yeah, like I said, we moved through all the early on stuff that was kind of slow moving. We talked the girls' school. We talked the love interest and the falling apart. We talked the two big scenes we talked about at length. I did not watch the trailer yet for episode 3. Anything revealing there? Anything interesting there?
So that what's led me to think that's a little bit of a flashback episode is because you see young Valia, you see young
I did. You know what? I did see that.
Yeah,
I did see some of that.
and you
That's
see
right.
that they're on a icy world, which is one of
Yes.
the banishment worlds that the humans went to during the war against the thinking machines, or at the end of, as they were trying to reestablish humankind throughout the universe.
And that world did bear a striking resemblance to our background a little bit. I'm not saying that, you know, we're involved in the Dune universe if we're in Dune's canon, but you know, it did look a little bit like that. I'd like to see that. And again, if I got one more, if I got one more closeout thought, I like the set design. It's every place they go here is what I wanted, kind of like new Star Wars to have. Like it's got a vibe to it. It looks, there's some color, there's some interesting stuff going on. I did like the snow world. I did like their Hoth world at the end because it had some forest to it. It wasn't just like bleak tundra tundra landscape, which was cool. I do like the drop ships coming in. Everything looks sleek. I like the Imperial City or whatever it is. I love that sitting area out by the bonfire. It's little things, man. But if it's enough to keep me visually engaged, I can kind of latch onto that while I'm getting through some of the slower parts. And then you get in this, and then it ramps up at the end. If they keep that pace up and tell me a good story, dude, I guess I'm happy. You know, and not everything needs to have that shootout, but I need multiple bits of that interesting punch, or I'm gonna lose track of it and need to rewatch sections. And I don't want to watch a show like that. You know what I mean? I don't want to review stuff because it put me to sleep for 5 minutes, you know, at 9 o'clock at night and then have to catch back up.
Yeah.
But it's not bad. I wish we had some numbers to go by too. Like I wish they were just transparent about this kind of thing, just so I could know. That's just a me thing.
It's a show that is going to be driven by story, characters, and story. It's not going to be driven by action or drama, stuff like that. It's going to be driven by the story. So I'm looking forward to it. See how they're going to shape it out.
I mean, now for us, how we're always talking about blocks of things. Is episode 3 the make or break, or is episode 4 the make or break? Do they have to get through that second block of 2 to really figure out if they're going to be able to set up an interesting final arc, or is next week, is this where a lot of people are going to turn it off if it tends to decline a little bit?
I think episode 4 will be or if people are going to tune in for the last 2.
Got it. Yeah. That tracks. I think maybe, and that might even be the case, man, because it's only 6 episodes. The people probably watching the show are probably people that really enjoyed Dune anyway, or the world or the recent movies. And this might just be what they want anyway. Like they're probably not, I don't get the impression they're chasing the wider audience here, because then I think we would have had more gunfights or some shit within the first 2 episodes, or, you know, all the sisters in the academy squaring off against 20 armed incursion, you know, soldiers. They haven't done that. I don't think they're not chasing. I don't think.
So we got a new theory here from
New
Victor.
theory.
Thank you for being here, Victor, by the way.
Thank you, dude. Appreciate it.
He said, could he be a cyborg? Now, the only reason I don't think he could be a cyborg is unless he's a plant from a rogue thinking machine that didn't get destroyed, is because they don't allow thinking machines. So there would be nothing like a process or anything like that that could be able to keep his memories and him going. I do believe it is a form of technologies where he's getting his power from. And and I think that more likely he's a Gola that has a technology that's implanted in him, because Gola is Dune lore, where cyborgs really are not, unless they're the thinking machines that were destroyed during the jihad.
But Larry and Jihad. Now, let me ask a question to you guys that know more about that. Then, while we're on the subject, this show time jumps to what? Was it 5 years after that or 30? I don't 30. Remember. It was 30. So it's a long time now removed from the war.
Yeah. So you had the jihad
recovered and flourished,
and then it was like a 5-year span to where we saw the first Bene Gesserit,
right?
The first Reverend Mother, and then it's 30 years from that. Yeah.
Okay, so they're widely removed from that war. They've obviously economically recovered. They've, you know, flourished through the star again or whichever. Could they have a leftover thinking machine? I mean, if they're telling an original story, I don't see why they couldn't. It's 10,000 years prior to Dune. It's not like it's off limits.
It really could be. We did see the kid have one, like a little toy one.
That's just a robot, though, man. You know, like that's not.
It's still a thinking machine, and it has its own AI.
Oh no, it's a thinking machine for sure. But I'm thinking like cyborg, like T800. You know what I mean? Like, do
Well,
they have that?
by definition of cyborg, it has to be half organic, half
It has to have organic
mechanic.
component, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, the
It wouldn't even
cyborg
really
theory,
need that. It would just need robot. It would just literally need, like you said, thinking machine, like
yeah,
the end, like the exoskeleton shit.
yeah,
You know, it doesn't need to have eyes and hearts and blood.
yeah. I mean, think RoboCop. That's actually a perfect identification of a cyborg.
Yep.
So the cyborg theory wouldn't be a total mislead, but I do believe we're looking more at a clone that has a mechanical device implanted in him.
I like that because it's not like we were talking earlier about just things being on brand, like the suspension cells work because in the Dune movies we saw they have anti-suspension jetpack whatevers. They let them jump the far distances from the harvesters and things like that. So I like the idea that it's a something. Would you call it a Gola? Is that how you pronounce it?
It's GHOLAS. Golas.
Which looks an awful lot like ghoul. So I'm with that. I like that they have a thing that it's called, and if they knew enough to draw from source to bring in something specific and unique to Dune, as opposed to an all-purpose thinking machine cyborg, I like that. Like that would get the Wolf approved stamp from me. Like I think that would be cool. I like to see what they do. And one of I think the strong advantage this show has that we're always talking about when we talk about our Star Wars stuff is like it's 10,000 years before it can screw anything up. So unless they do something dumb like, oh, this event happened that obliterated the entire Atreides line and now they're gone from history. Unless they do that, there's really nothing else they can do that would permanently destroy the lore.
And technically, you could kill off the Swordmaster Atreides.
Yeah, he's just an Atreides. He's not all of them.
Yeah, because the God Emperor that they refer to, who's now dead, actually multiplied on many planets. So there's many Atreides throughout the universe.
That's what I mean. Like they'd have to do some Thanos level snapping of every Atreides that ever existed to destroy prime timeline lore that they want for these movies going forward. So if they avoid that, they can literally tell whatever small scale, non-world ending story now, or I mean, at 10,000 years in the past now, before ahead of Dune 3, 4, whatever however many they're going to do.
Yeah. So thank you again, Victor, for that talking point.
Appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate it.
We do, because I'm definitely not well-versed in the Dune. It's very new to me. King Z has a little bit more experience. Dude, have you read you've read at least the first book, have you not? Didn't we talk about that?
I've read the first book and I've read parts of Children of Dune, which is not the second book. Messiah of Dune is the second book.
Yeah. So, and you've spent time online, like listening to lore and stuff like that I can't wrap my head around it. It's not my forte.
I've been doing a lot more for these reviews. So
I know. Maybe I should turn this on in the background while I'm at work, like the Dune lore channels, and just suck it all up like I'm studying for an exam.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing.
You're probably enjoying it though. I don't like study listening. That's not how I roll. But all right, dude. Why don't we call it here? We thank everybody because we appreciate folks coming along for the ride. Let us know in the comments if you'd like us to continue watching the Dune. I think we're going to. I don't see why we're going to stop Dune. Scheduling change though, as I told King Z earlier, I'll just drop it here for the folks that are around still. We're doing Skeleton Crew next month, guys, and guess what? The first 2 episodes are coming out a whole day early, coming on December 2nd, but then everything else is on the Tuesdays going forward the next week.
Yeah, which I think is a very bad idea. They're trying to go head to head with Monday Night Football as well as Monday Night Raw coming off of PLE.
Yeah, dude, but kids will watch the Skeleton Crew and on Disney Plus, and the dads will watch the other thing. It's not like there's only one screen in the house anymore, dude. You know, things are different now, man. New world. But all right, with no further ado, King Z, hit him with that profound goodbye.
Well, see ya.